The next station is Wimbledon, where this train terminates.
This is Plough Lane. To you, this just looks like a set of apartments. However, the name proves to be more significant than that. Up until 1991, this used to be the home of then First Division club, Wimbledon FC. The club is known around the country for its remarkable climb up the divisions and winning the 1988 FA Cup with players such as Dennis Wise and Vinnie Jones. However, the 90s saw the club deal with financial issues. The club had to leave Plough Lane and went to play at Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park until 2003. In protest, the supporters formed a replacement club, AFC Wimbledon, in 2002 and restarted life at the bottom of the footballing pyramid. In replication of the old club's rise, the Wombles eventually earned promotion back into the Football League in 2011. The fans who formed the club founded the Dons Trust, a supporters trust who have 75% ownership of the club and have played a big role in helping the club return to the Football League. But what does the trust do? Hannah Kitcher, who was elected onto the board in 2018, explains how it works to help the club.
Basically, in terms of the structure of the club, you've got AFC Wimbledon, several different boards. The AFC Wimbledon Limited board sits underneath the Dons Trust board. The Dons Trust board holds the football club board, the FCB, to account. So basically, the Dons Trust is we've got about 3,000 members, so not all fans are members, but all members are fans of AFC Wimbledon. So basically the Dons Trust board, elected by its members, are there to uphold the constitution of the Dons Trust, which was written when AFC Wimbledon reformed.
The remnants of the original club were relocated in a hugely controversial decision. This saw the club move to Milton Keynes, over 60 miles away from the club's original home, with the club being renamed as MK Dons. Almost 15 years later, there is still bitterness over Milton Keynes using Dons in their name.
There's still, I speak to a lot of fans about it, and there's a lot of division. There's still a bitterness, and there's also a divide about whether you should call Milton Keynes Dons. Do they have the right to use Dons? Yeah. So I don't know whether. When we played Milton Keynes for the first time back here, the club agreed to refuse to recognise the Dons in Milton Keynes. So on the scoreboard, we put MK and didn't include Milton Keynes anywhere in the programme. And then resultantly, the FA have kicked up about it, and we're going through a mediation process about that at the moment with Milton Keynes and the FA.
However, despite their success on the pitch, the club still remains outside Wimbledon. The club currently plays at Kings Meadow in Kingston upon Thames, 4 miles away. The club have played there since their formation and shared the ground with non-league side Kingstonian until 2017. However, in 2015, the authorities of the Merton Borough Council approved plans for the club to build a new 10,000-seater stadium on the site of the old Wimbledon Greyhound Stadium, located just up the road from the original location of the club's old home. The ground is expected to open in 2020, seeing football return to the town of Wimbledon for the first time in almost 30 years.
It's huge, and it's been so long, and if you're here on a game, you'll hear it's fans singing constantly throughout the games, sort of like "Show me the way to Plough Lane." The return home is just like, so when the club was reformed, there were a number of ambitions that the fans agreed that they wanted to achieve. One was to get back into the league. That's been achieved. To maintain fan ownership, still maintain fan ownership. The other one was to return back to the borough of Wimbledon, because at the moment we're not in the borough of Wimbledon, so it's seen as kind of returning to the rightful home.
There are currently only 4 clubs in the top 4 divisions that are fan-owned. This includes AFC Wimbledon and Wycombe Wanderers of League 1, and Exeter City and Newport County of League 2. To help the fans take control of their clubs, an organisation called Supporters Direct was set up. The organisation was set up in 2000 by the government to oversee clubs transitioning into fan ownership. Richard Irving is the network manager for fan-owned clubs at Supporters Direct and says that the organisation is about putting fans first and making sure they have a voice in the club.
Supporter ownership is important to us for a number of reasons. The clubs that have gone into supporter ownership have come about for a number of reasons. There have been instances where clubs have gone into administration and there's been a resurrection of that club. There have been instances where people have fallen out with their owners, such as FC United of Manchester being set up and AFC Wimbledon, and set up a new club themselves. And supporters' trusts themselves are very important for the structured dialogue with the clubs themselves to give the fans a voice.
Lying on the south coast is the city of Portsmouth. Over 10 years ago, this city was the home to a Premier League and FA Cup winning side, Portsmouth FC. However, following Pompey's success in the 2008 FA Cup final, financial instability crept up on the club. 2010 saw the club enter administration, and by 2013 the club found themselves in League Two. In 2012, the Pompey Supporters Trust took full control of the club, and Richard Irving believes that this was pivotal in the club's survival.
Portsmouth went through a particularly rocky phase throughout the early years of the 2000s and into 2010 and beyond. They had a series of very, very dubious owners, and eventually the club went into administration. The supporters effectively saved the club by raising approximately £10 million through donations from larger wealthy individuals, some companies, and just individuals donating whatever they could. And it went into supporter ownership.
Eric Colborne has been a member of the Pompey Supporters Trust for 6 years. He says that the trust was founded to get the fans' involvement in the club, helping them regain stability.
Well, the Pompey Supporters Trust was formed to try and sort of get some representation on the board in its original format, but then when the club became in sort of crisis and likely to go out of business, it sort of turned into the owner or an ownership model. It was down to a small group of what we call presidents and the trust that bought the club from out of administration, where it had been for over a year, and started getting it back on its feet. And obviously Michael Eisner's now taken over the reins and is building the club going forward.
Once stability returned to the club, the Pompey Supporters Trust sold the club to former Disney chief executive Michael Eisner in 2017. Although the Supporters Trust has given up their ownership of the club, the trust still have a major role in how the club is run.
We have what we call Heritage Advisory Board, which is made up of 3 members of the Trust Board and 3 members of the Presidents, and they meet on a quarterly basis to discuss all issues with the club and see where we're going.
Although the Pompey Supporters Trust ownership of the club could be seen as a success story, Eric believes that the model they adopted would not work at another club.
I believe that the model we had here would not be will never happen again. It was just an incredible situation with some incredible people, and I don't think that is viable going forward for any other football club. However, I do feel that supporters are the mainstay of any football club and need a voice in that football club.
Just across the harbour from Portsmouth lies the small town of Gosport, the home of Gosport Borough Football Club. Just over 4 years ago, the club was knocking on the door of the National League and reached the 2014 FA Trophy final, ultimately losing. However, financial issues saw them fall to the Southern League, and the club is currently in discussions to form a supporters trust. Sam Gale has been working at the club for the last 3 years, witnessing the fall. He says that the club could benefit from fan involvement despite having low average attendances.
To be honest, you look at the size and the fans today. There was loads here, so if we could get as many people involved as possible, then it could potentially work. To be honest, we're not sure yet, as we don't know how many people would sort of get involved with it, but it will come with time, and hopefully it could work.
So, we have seen that fan ownership and involvement has had a positive impact on the game. We have seen clubs saved from extinction, and we have seen clubs rise from exclusion. So, How long will it be before we see a team at the top level become fan-owned?